Hey, it's Kevin Lawton with the New Warehouse Podcast here at MODEX 2022. I am in the booth, joined by Todd Boone of Zebra Technologies, previous guest of the show, but this time in person. So it's good to meet you in person, Todd. So Todd, welcome to the booth. How you doing?
I'm doing great. How about you?
I'm doing pretty well. You know,
Awesome.
last day here at MODEX. So how's it been going for you and the Zebra team?
It's been a great show.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, we weren't really sure how it would go,
Right.
because we were a bit worried with, NRF we had pulled out of. There didn't look to be enough traffic, and
Yeah.
even I think the registrations here were really low up
Right.
until, probably 6 to 8 weeks ago. But then we saw the trend changing, and
Yeah.
it's actually been a fantastic show. And I don't know what the numbers will be. In some ways, I'm not sure we really care because it's the caliber and the types of people that have been coming has actually been really strong. So it's been a really good show.
Yeah, absolutely, and there's certainly been a ton of people here, and I think people, are itching to get out and see things, right? So tell us a little bit, for those that may not be familiar. I mean, Zebra's been on the podcast a ton of times, but just give us a brief overview of what you guys do.
Yeah, so Zebra, we've been around for a number of years. Many people know us as a printer company, but in fact we go much broader than that. We talk about, empowering the edge of our customers' businesses, right? And when we think of that, it's the insight, the data, the visibility that they can get through a variety of methodologies, right? So it's like the data capture through things like barcode scanning.
Yeah.
It's machine vision types of technologies that we can inject into like manufacturing types of processes. It's sensors and technologies that give insights in a more, seamless way, right? So that we're tracking workers, we're tracking materials, but basically we're giving edge insights to customers across a variety of industries with a variety of technologies. And our goal really is to bring that all together. And what we've been doing, I think, at this show that's a little bit different from the past is historically you think of a show and a company like Zebra, we would have a bunch of our products on display in a static product bar.
Right.
And so in terms of tying it all together, and when we talk of, the edge, what do we mean by that? We're actually showing it. And so we actually have a process flow through our booth with an overhead walkway where we can walk people through, and in this case, it's a warehousing facility, but what kind of goes on and which products are involved, at each specific point, so that we're saying, hey, what types of visibility and insights can we drive at each layer from, the time something is picked right through to the sortation to pack out and finally shipping out.
Yeah, I think it's really important to see that now. I mean, because you have a lot of solutions that are focused on specific processes, but when you're able to show them all together in that flow, like you mentioned, and be able to walk it through all the way, people start to understand like how can they digitize and make things digital in every different process of that flow for the operation. So really interesting the way you set that up. So tell us a little bit about what are the kind of the big highlights of what Zebra is showing here at the show this year.
Probably one of the biggest highlights is our emergence in the actual robotics and automation realm. Okay. Many people may know that we acquired Fetch Robotics in August of last year. And this is really the first coming out, if you will, because as we were saying, finally we can get together and it's not just some sort of digital, coming out, but actually to do it in person and to start showing how those, autonomous mobile robots can actually play with humans, right? And so the worker in many respects is still the highlight, but actually show how that technology can start to add value to customers, operations. And I think, as we were just, we keep kind of, building on the point, but when people actually see them and they see the workflow in motion, what could be kind of a static technology or maybe a little bit nebulous in their mind in terms of how it would fit. We've had actually a great number of customers getting sort of more interested in asking the right types of questions because it spurs the imagination, right? And with something like AMRs, suddenly it's not, a science project, if you will, but they actually see it doing something, and then they say, well, wait a second, that seems representative of some of the things we do in our workspace. How could we have a conversation to see if that fits?
Yeah, very interesting. And I think being able to see things now in person is certainly making a difference, because there's a lot of need in the industry to automate and be able to digitize a little more and bring more digital things in, and really enable your workers to do more things that are possible. And you mentioned obviously the acquisition of Fetch, which we talked about on the podcast previously here with Zebra. But how has the reception to that been, and how are you seeing people now? I guess receiving the fact that Zebra is now offering those robotic technologies.
I think it's been received very, very well.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I talk about at our booth is if you look at the imagery and the pictures, and it sounds like a subtle thing, but there's people front and center in all of that. And when you look at a lot of the solutions that are here, it tends to be one aspect of an automated solution and very focused on the technology. And so when people see Zebra and they understand that typically we've been equipping workers, for many years now, and then when they see the AMRs, it's a natural fit. And some of the feedback that we've been getting is, across the breadth of the offering, and being able to do that with a single vendor certainly resonates. But I think that breadth of offering is and that's why we set the booth up the way we did, is so it's not just a bunch of point solutions that they have to figure out how they could envision it together, but we're actually showcasing that. And the AMR platforms are based off a common foundational platform, Fetch Core, right? So from a software management for the AMRs, there's some simplification there. But then, some of the applications were showing how we are tying that in a way that helps them, and so that they can visualize, and there's a clear path to them saying, hey, how do I get value out of this? So overall, I think people are seeing the connection. I think the other interesting thing is it's no longer an either or. And by that I mean a lot of times people have thought of automation as a replacement for labor, right? And that's been one of those touchy subjects historically.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And now, most customers, and this has been really emerging the last year, where most customers are like, I can't get enough people, but I still have actually not just the same amount of work, I have more work to do, right? So I'm scrambling, I'm drowning, what do I do? And so as soon as you're showing how this can inject, another tool for the worker, right? Again, keeping that worker as the center point and saying, sure, you can equip them with devices, but if you don't have enough, you're only going to get enough workers, you're only going to get so far. And then that AMR becomes a catalyst to drive the conversation of, wait a minute, it's like a force multiplier. I often refer to it as like superpowers, right? For the workers that are there, of like, hey, you're definitely not taking them away. You can't get enough in the first place, and you can enable them to do more.
Right, yeah, and I think you guys have so many offerings that help empower those employees and give them a better chance at being more productive and getting more out of them and more throughput without necessarily, pushing them harder in a sense. It's the tools that you're kind of enabling them with. So I see, we have a tool here potentially on the table, a little toy. So why don't you tell us a little bit about this and we can talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, it is a little toy, right? So it's a new wearable device that we came out with, and it's an integrated ring scanner and mobile computer.
Interesting.
That's about the same size as some of our historical ring scanners. So for those familiar with our portfolio, there's actually something called an RS6000 that we've had for years. This is in fact smaller than that, yet it still has a full 2-inch display and integrated scanning capabilities. And so what's interesting
Can I take a look at this?
Absolutely.
Yeah, sure.
And what's interesting with this is a lot of times people would look at this, and the challenge with wearables a lot of times has been the display and the amount of real estate for the worker to utilize is too small, right? And customers are thinking about that because they've got a TE construct, I think, in their mind. And I think as we've talked before in the past, you and I, like we have this, some new application capability. One of them is Fulfillment Edge, where we've been kind of reimagining what that experience looks like for the worker. So it's very visually driven in terms of the cues that are given to the worker. And so now suddenly customers are seeing this and they're like, well, this is actually a very small ergonomic device. It doesn't weigh very much. It's got a very small display, but when the information is presented properly, then actually it allows the workers to do their job better. And the analogy I often use is when you think of Google Maps, right? You can actually pull up that dialogue or the list of every step that you're going to take on your drive. But I don't think too many people do, because it's kind of like information overload, right? And a lot of times that's what the displays have kind of been presenting to the workers. They have to fish through and find out what they're doing next. But when you're actually driving, and it just tells you this is the turn coming up, right? This is my next step. It actually can be very powerful, and we all kind of do it. Maybe not every day, but fairly frequently. This is the exact same premise as our workers are going through. throughout their tasks. We want to make it as simple as possible. And when you give them that snack-sized information, this is all you have to worry about next. We're not giving you any extraneous factors. We're putting in a really visual, crisp, easy to digest fashion. Workers can also come on board way faster. And I think there's some other elements of that as well, right? Is suddenly this device, right? It's very small, very lightweight.
Yeah.
And when you hand a worker this as their tool, it's not so overwhelming, and it's not seen as prohibitive or threatening in many respects, right? They're like, okay, this is going to be easy for me to use, and yeah, I can see you putting it on there, right? It's pretty comfortable. There's a back of the hand mount here with a thumb-mounted trigger, and
that's the trigger. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And so it's
oh, I see. It's green.
Yeah. And so that gives them full dexterity of their hands. So if they are, let's say, doing e-com picking throughout the day, they can just rapid fire through these things, and they can be utilizing both hands. But what's interesting with this is you can see, so you're scrolling through the display right now.
Yeah.
Now imagine
it's touchscreen too, which is cool. Yeah.
Absolutely. And so how we're showcasing this at this show, though, is the actual demo is showing this with our automated fulfillment offering as well. So we launched Flex Shelf, a new AMR platform, I guess late last year, focused on e-commerce fulfillment. Yeah. And a lot of times, a lot of the offers in the industry have actually not had any device requirements for the worker, and that's absolutely something that we can do as well, right? Like our Flex Shelf has a display on it. It can completely guide the worker through an entire workflow, and basically all you have to equip them with is an NFC wristband that kind of assigns them to the work to be done on a given robot before they pick to it and split ways. Yeah. But with the equipped worker, what's really quite interesting is we're showing the dynamic nature of not just one tool, but various tools that can help them do their job better. So what I mean by that is, let's say I pick with this, I pick something off a shelf and both my hands are full, and I'm turning to the Flex Shelf to put something in it. Yeah. Well, it's kind of awkward to have to check the device, right? Because now both my hands are full. How do I see what my next step is? So it's actually tied to the display on the AMR as well, so that they're actually getting their guidance both from the device as well as the
robot itself.
As well as the robot itself. Yeah. And we've also got LED light pipes and all sorts of visual cues to just help make that. So when I talk about sort of that snack size, information, we're trying to do it in a variety of ways and in sort of a unique fashion that helps the workers. But I would say broader than that too is now suddenly you've got something with an equipped worker that you can actually be much more predictable about how you drive them to do their activities. Yeah. Right. So you can actually enforce what their next step is. Like, let's say it's an urgent order, for example. Make sure they actually get it picked and those types of things.
Yeah. So it's very interesting, and I think this is. It's very comfortable as I'm wearing it. Yeah. And I love that it's a touchscreen here as well. I think that makes it more versatile and more flexible. So now, if they're using this now, is there something else that they're wearing as well, like on the hip or anything? And this is it. This is the thing.
This is it. Okay. Yeah, and that's what's kind of blowing the minds of a few customers, frankly, is they're kind of like, okay, well, where's the device? And we're like,
like,
this is the device.
Where's it reading from? Yeah, so this is actually it. Wow, that's pretty incredible. Yeah, very cool. All right, very cool stuff. And, obviously you guys continue to evolve the technology and push the envelope, and I'm going to give Todd a little scan there, actually. So very cool. I appreciate you coming by the booth and bringing this over, too, and it's always great to hear about, what's new at Zebra and what you guys are doing. And, if people are interested to find out more information about this device right here or any of the other things you guys are doing, how can they do that?
Yeah, best place is typically our website, right, to go to zebra.com. And there's a wealth of information on that, and, it can definitely steer you the right way.
All right. So, Todd, thank you so much for coming by the booth here at MODEX, and we always appreciate the time from Zebra, and we'll put more information at thenewarehouse.com as well. So, thank you.
Awesome. Thanks very much.